This is Craig Thayer from craigthayer.net, and you are listening to Vroom Vroom, Veer with Jeff Smith, reminding you to take a peek at my new book, Saved, One Trauma Surgeon's True Accounts of Miracles in His Life.
See, now that's way better.
That was. Like I said, I have to do it, a couple. If I did it again, I'd probably be even better next time. So
I get it. There's reading challenges. I understand. Yeah. I'm right there with you. So we're all in it together. All right. Let me hit stop. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Amber Tariq, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going great. It's been going well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I know you're probably pretty busy trying to, coach people and have a good time. So you are at ambertariq.com. So talk a little bit about what you're most excited about in your business and your life today.
I think what I'm most excited about the business, which to be perfectly honest, hasn't really started off yet.
That's okay. Yeah. Everybody's got to start.
Yeah.
That's
but,
okay.
It's a little different for me because I'm not too sure if I really want to go there.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it at some point during the show as well.
Sure.
But I think what I'm really most excited about is to have a community of people where people can really truly be themselves and
me too.
Celebrate themselves and the genuine joy that they have in their life, but also make space for grief.
Totally. Yes.
Genuine grief. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm most excited about. That's what I envision all the time. That's what I want to see. I really see it honestly in a desert around a bonfire, but that's my idea of having a community where people can truly be themselves, can celebrate themselves, can have joy in their life, and can also be allowed to have grief.
Totally. Like the grief is like, we just don't even want to talk about it. Like,
no, we don't want to talk about
I've recently.
We all want to be happy.
Yeah, all the time. And that's just doesn't happen, That was one of my big aha moments.
With this new agey stuff and spirituality coming in and more people being spiritual.
Right.
It almost has become attached to shame almost that you don't know how to be happy.
Exactly. You just fake it till you make it.
Feeling ourselves somehow that we have not learned to be happy yet.
Right. I had another guest that she kind of like laid it all out. I think she was, I can't remember, but some sort of psychologist, or she was a PhD in something, right? Okay. But her thing was all about brain chemicals like endorphin, dopamine, and all those brain chemicals, and how those sort of like, everybody's got them, right? And how much they are alike in all mammals. And then, how much we think we're just these like, I don't know what we think we are, but we're mammals, right? And we have all these mammalian sort of like fears, drivers, needs, wants, desires, right? And the crux of the biscuit was you're never going to be always just like, yay, I'm so happy. That would be weird.
That would be weird. Exactly.
It would be weird,
exactly. Yeah.
And if you pretend like that's your life, then you're not actually having a human experience. And, so it's like you're going to have kind of like this baseline of okayness. And then you're going to enjoy like having fun. You're going to go out and have drinks with your friends or play a game or, do some meaningful work. And that's going to make you feel differently. And then shit's going to go wrong. Right.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be sad, and you're going to have loss and grief.
Not just wrong with yourself, wrong with the world.
Wrong with the world.
The things, all the grief that we carry from our ancestors and all that. So it's there. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, the creatures that go extinct every day, of the landscapes that are suffering. So,
yeah. I think I heard Jack Kornfield on Tim Ferriss's podcast, And he said, people like you and me and Tim Ferriss and people that are fortunate enough to, have the easy part of life together. We have enough money. We're safe. We have enough food, right?
Yeah.
It's our job to not only hold space for the grief in the world, like for the planet, like Maya, Mother Earth, is crying every day, right?
Yeah.
And we have to be able to hold that and hold joy simultaneously.
True. Very true.
And I was like, you're right. Right? You have to
that is really the job of
us
being meaningful, a deep human, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both simultaneously, right?
Yeah.
I remember having another guest on, and she was in grief, like in the rawness of grief, right? Like really feeling it, like at like a funeral or a wake or something.
Right.
And it was just so heavy, and she was holding it all, and she didn't know what to do. And she just needed a break, and she just like walked out into nature, went down to the water and took a deep breath, and then just went, I just need a break. I need to make some space, right? And then she just had a little moment of joy, and then she could go back in and go, okay, recharge, joy charge. Now I'm going back in, and I'm going to get back to feeling shitty again. Because I got to do that too. That's the gig right now. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's nothing wrong
That's a
with
great
that.
way.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No, you have to. You have to feel it.
I write too. And so I write about, like, it occurred to me a while ago that there are two kinds of sadness. There is one sadness that is really resentment. It looks like sadness, but it's the sadness that we get sad to really punish people around us for making us feel sad. That
right?
has a lot of
yes.
right?
Yeah. The second arrow, as they say.
That has some degree of manipulation. But then there is another kind of sadness that comes with accepting the things the way they are. You are really sad about it, but you don't really want anybody else to do anything about it. It just is.
Yes.
And you're okay. And that has a little bit of soulfulness and sweetness to it. Like I call that sweet sadness. Yeah. And I mean, I really enjoy it. Like, after a lifetime of not determined not to feel sadness, I really, really enjoy it actually.
I understand exactly what you're saying. No.
It's a hard to put together with sadness word.
Right.
But
words always fail. Yeah. Words always fail here.
It feels good. Yeah.
Yeah. It does feel good. Like I can tell a story about how like I went through body awareness kind of like training, not like on purpose. It was just sort of like one of those spiritual things that God was putting me through, but like getting me tuned into my body, doing meditation, like body work, energy work, all these sorts of things went back when I was in massage school. And I really did learn how to like tune into all the different areas of the body. Oh, I feel something here. What is that? What, and pain is always some sort of message from your higher self, God, whatever you want to call it, the universe, right? It's some message coming through the body to teach you something or tell you something.
Absolutely.
And you have to talk to it. You got to go, okay, heart, what's up? And just feel that, and you're going to get some words and some thoughts and some feelings and then just sit with it. I remember like just feeling really heart heavy and not knowing why, like during the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think we all went through this. And I just started sobbing in bed. And I don't know what that was, but like my guess would be something like I was sort of like mourning the world that was at that moment, because everything before the pandemic was over now, right? We're never going back there. That's over. Right.
Yeah.
Now we're
some people do feel that with any collective trauma that the world is going through, a war that is going on, or like huge oil spills that the animals are suffering or whatnot, and like people won't know what really is wrong, and they would start sobbing like that.
Yeah, totally. Because it's like one heart almost. It's like the heart of Earth. You're connected to it.
You're connected to it. Yeah.
Yes, you are. So let's talk a little bit about like Amber Tariq growing up. So where did you grow up?
I was born in Saudi, and my very early childhood is in the Middle East. So some in Saudi, some in Syria. But I think
Okay.
I believe I was 7 when I went back to Pakistan, which is really my home country.
Okay.
And so I spent the rest of my childhood and my early adulthood there. So I came to US when I was 30.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
My goodness. So you grew up spend most of your time growing up, going to school and probably working for a while in Pakistan.
Pakistan. Yes.
Wow. Okay. And that's where you worked as a doctor, like a medical doctor?
I worked as a doctor. That is right. Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, with absolutely no idea what that life experience is like,
Yeah.
like zero. Talk a little bit about like what highlights can you tell me? So, what was like high school like for you?
So I've always loved school. So the interesting thing that I came across maybe a few years ago for myself is that how well known I was in my family to have a wonderful memory, and how good I am in remembering the details of like any event or anything. And I would say that who was sitting where and was wearing what.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet I tried to do some soul searching for purpose, and I couldn't remember for the life of me what was my childhood like. So I really have very little memories before 12, like maybe 11 you would say, but really, like almost everything that I say that, I started being passionate about something, or it really seems to me that my life started at 12. Like I was born at 12, and at 12 I felt like I was an adult. So I've always felt like an adult.
Wow. Okay. All right.
That's one part of it. High school was really, like we have a little bit of different categories, like in school,
like I think the Middle East, it's like, it's like a little bit more like the British system. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I've always loved going to school. So my few years of school that I remember from, let's say, grade 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th were really, really great. I was really doing well academically. Before that, I was a pretty average student. After that, I really started to shine.
Okay.
So, and I loved being at school. And, I recently have been reflecting on it that throughout my life, from that point on, I've always enjoyed and felt more home at being work and school compared to being home.
Okay.
So that's really, like I've been reflecting on this pattern that I have, that I always feel like myself more, like I'm more spontaneous, more, I have more fun. Like, like it's really hard for me when people bitch about being at work or having to be at work late. And I'm like, it's really the problem.
I get it. Yeah. Because if you're having a good time, what's everybody whining about, right?
I always have had good time.
Yeah.
I think med school was the only time that I did not enjoy. Like it's the grayest time of my life. But other than that, I've always enjoyed being at school. In high school particularly, I had a rough transition from school to college, and which is technically the highest school. The first couple of months were really, really hard. I switched cities, and so there were no old friends, and I'm not very quick with making new friends, especially back then.
Yeah.
I've been an introvert all my life. Like it really has been recently that I connect with people relatively more easily, and I start into conversations relatively easily. That has been an improvement. But I was really a hardcore introvert throughout my life. I still am.
Okay.
But I really had a hard time making new friends at that time.
Understood.
So after the first few months that were hard, I ended up college with like having a group of friends, like a 10 or 12 friends, and I was the entertainer of the group. That's the thing. I was the storyteller. I was the entertainer. I was the star, and that makes me happy because that really is the only time in my life where I had that role.
Okay.
It's something to fall back on. That is something that I truly enjoy doing.
Sure.
Like it's something within me. It's just that I haven't accessed it enough.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. So if I compare you to me, like growing up, I was always sort of like not an overachiever. Is that academically, work wise, right? But more of a satisficer, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah.
Like if I were to like say like reminisce about like preparing for a test or something, right? Like I remember in microbiology somewhere in high school. So this is like somewhere between 9th and 12th grade US system. My only method of studying for a test would be to turn around and chat with the girl next to me, who was like an overachiever, A+ kind of student, right?
Yeah.
I kind of think her name was Amy. I really don't know. I can see her face, but I have to go look at the yearbook. But anyway, we would just chat and say, okay, let's do your notes, right? And she would say, what's this? And I'd go, that. And she'd go, what's this? And that. And she'd go, what's this? I don't know. What's that? Right? And then, and then I'd turn around and take the test and do pretty good. Not great, right? But say like a B+ or an A-, right?
Yeah.
And that was, hey, good enough. That's
Good enough. Good enough. Yeah.
exactly right.
I'm all for good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I'm floating around, almost all of my guests classify themselves as overachievers. So I feel a little what is that word? Self-conscious. Yeah. Because I'm not. And I've never been one. I've always been. Now, there are certain things, I guess, that I suppose I kind of like hold tight. Like I always wanted to consider myself a hard worker, right? Like I have a work ethic that sort of rubbed off from where I grew up, right?
Yeah.
But not so into work that I want to be like this, just work 80 hours a week and kill it and crush it and be the, like,
Yeah.
no,
And
not that.
be the best at what I do. Yeah.
Exactly. No, it was just like, hey, we're here. This is time to work. Let's work. Right. Later on, we'll go screw around. But now this is work time. Right? Yeah. So anyway, okay. So so that's neat. I like the way you said that. Like I'm an introvert but once you find your village, so to speak, then you open up and you flower into this entertainer person.
Yeah.
That's fun. I get it.
And like the way you talk about yourself and the way people talk about you, like your family and your close friends and all that, that it really is very recent that I've begun to see this about myself too, that I can be an entertainer. And there are sides of my personality that are very charming and they're very
it's probably always been there. You just didn't know about it.
It really took some effort to really see that, I've had those windows in my life, like here and there, where I really become the star of the party.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
That's fun. So, like when I was a kid, I don't know why, but I was always sort of like the kid, like, look at me, oh, hey, do a dance, make us laugh. So it was sort of like part of my personality to be an entertainer kid, very, very young. But I think over time, like it would become too heavy to carry that around because you don't always want to be the entertainer.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Like if everybody always expects you, this has happened to me a couple times. Like when I was in deployment in Qatar, they would let us drink like 3 beers a day. So I did. But not only on off work days, right? So if I didn't, it was okay for me to be three beers hungover.
Yeah.
No big deal. But one time I show up there and there's just these random people that I don't know, but we're all in the same boat. So I just sit down and start drinking and they were playing cards and we start playing cards together and they just think I'm a hoot, right? That like I'm the most entertaining guy. So suddenly they don't want me to not drink anymore, right? So they're like giving me more. They're like, hey, I'm going to go find some friends so you can keep drinking.
Okay.
And then, so we have a good time, right? And then I show up the next night and they're there again. And I'm like, no. I don't need that. I don't need to get drunk 2 times in a row for your entertainment. Go find another monkey anyway.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
It's not just the entertainer. I think any role that we are stuck with, it may feel
right.
so great in the beginning to be the high achiever, to be the star of the family, to be the hero of the family,
Yeah,
the problem
yeah.
of the family. Anything can become a burden over time. Like you stick with it long enough, and suddenly you know that you don't have space to be ever sad or
right.
ever not have the answer to the problem.
Right. Yeah.
Or have any problems of your own.
Totally. Right. Yeah. That all makes sense. I just listened. I occasionally go down a internet rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. There was this guy on YouTube that did a very long, very in-depth, and very impressive Jungian analysis of Twin Peaks, the TV show. Okay. So, so I would have never found that guy. Ever in my life.
Oh, I would love to hear that.
If it hadn't been for Twin Peaks, right? Because I'm not like searching the internet for experts Jungian. And Jung. Yeah. But I'm familiar. I did like you. I had a passing sort of like interest in psychology. And so much so that I went and did a bachelor's degree in psychology.
Wow.
So I did learn a little bit about, Freud and Jung, however you want to say it. And this guy was really good. And he just sort of like laid out what, like in very, easy to understand for me, ways to say like how these Jungian archetypes like are these traditional roles that we connect to, and once we're in that role, like then it's a thing that can be powerful, but it can also be dangerous. That's the first time I ever heard anybody say like, watch out. So, and like, it was sort of like things started making sense in a new way from this guy. And he's a really great guy. And so his website was sitwithit.net. I think his name, I can't remember his name. I'll have to go look it up. Yeah, go check it out because he's got a free ebook and all of his videos are great. Yeah. And everybody else, go check him out too. But sitwithit.net, I think. Let me look it up for you. And if I have to go back and make a little edit, that's okay with me. Yeah, sitwithit.net. And this guy is awesome. So anyway, I think the thing that really struck me was there was this other conversation that I heard and didn't participate in, obviously. But it was like one of these, I think he's Jewish, Ben Shapiro. Okay, so he is a conservative guy, right? Jewish. And he was explaining to, I don't remember the podcast, the Russian guy. The Russian podcaster that is very famous now was asking him about like, what are your spiritual beliefs and, and how does that affect your life? And he's like, well, in the Jewish tradition, if you sign up to be a traditional role, like a father or a mother or a husband or a wife, right? You are literally making a contract with God. That's what they believe, right? And I was like, and if you don't do it well, that's not going to go good for you in the belief system, right? It's like you're not fulfilling the role. And when you do fulfill the role to the best of I'm not saying you're going to be perfect, right? That's not what he means. He's saying like you'd never like forsake the role, I guess would be a good word because we don't have a good word now, right? But sort of like turn your back on it or like, purposefully
give it your all or do it wholeheartedly.
Exactly. Yes. Do it. Right. Don't screw around. Don't half-ass that. But we can see evidence right now in our world. Like if you're not fulfilling these roles, I mean, it's true, right? Like who wants a deadbeat dad? Nobody wants a deadbeat dad, right? If you're going to be a dad, be a dad, right? it makes sense. And then when I heard about these other archetypes, that's what it is, right? You're signing up to do these roles.
Right.
If you don't do them well, if you don't, things aren't going to go well for you.
So the thing with these roles or the archetypes is that archetypes is really a transpersonal energy. It's like these universal energies that have, or patterns that have existed throughout times. And so the one way of saying them is, and when I say the word God, it's not really the God that I mean, but it really is what it really means is that it is a transpersonal energy. It's not personal.
Right.
So since it's such huge godly energies,
right,
to commit to it, you can really be inflated with it.
Right.
And it can become really destructive too. So
Yes.
that's when you assume the role, what I would say, or the Jungians would say, is unconsciously, that you unconsciously really tap into that archetypal energy and you start believing that you are the archetype.
Right. That's a problem. Yeah. He had a word for that. So the sit with it guy had a word for that. I think he called it possessed. Yes. Yeah. And that's not good. So like that. So if you get like, if you want to keep playing the hero, right?
Yeah.
That's not good, right? If you need to have a heroic moment, go ahead and have a heroic moment and then put the hero down.
Right.
But you can't be the hero. That's not good.
Or you have to recognize that, you may be the hero, but you're also so much more.
Right. What? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't live as a hero every day, all the time. Right.
That it's polytheism of psychology. Like, you're not just one god, like you have all these other gods in your psyche as well. And you have to play all of them, or else one would make its claim in a way that you won't like.
Totally. And if you're spending all of your time being hero guy, then you don't have time to play any other role, like father, mother, right?
Right. Or especially,
spouse.
One of the underworld roles, like some of the gods that stand for sadness or grief or the difficult things in life.
Right. That's the
right.
Yeah.
And that grabs you in the moments when you least expect it, and you're just not prepared for it.
So that was one of the things that like this sit with it guy was just sit with it, right? And that makes total sense, right?
Right.
Just sit and just like be quiet for 20 minutes every day. And just know that things might happen, but you're going to be okay. Don't get possessed by one of these archetypes. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about like your journey from transitioning from medical doctor to, I guess, depth coach, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're aiming to be. Yeah. So
that's what I'm aiming to be. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about like, you didn't like med school, but like what was your life as a doctor like there in Pakistan or wherever it was?
All right. Let me go back and, talk a little bit about, and also from Jungian perspective.
Sure.
That how do we become the people we become?
Yeah.
Right. So there are familial messages, and there are cultural messages, and there are societal messages that we get when we are children. And there is one of the two tendencies. We either quietly, unconsciously just adopt all the normalities, or however we are expected to be.
Right.
Or we become rebellious.
Sure. Right hand, left hand, right?
and we think that when we are being rebellious, we are being ourselves.
Right.
And that's so not true. Because when we are being rebellious, we are still being driven by something else, just in the opposite direction.
Right. It's so weird. Okay.
My mantra from the very beginning, how did it become, like I said, like I don't remember too much of my childhood. I do have guesses now, but for most part, I don't really have the details of my childhood.
Right.
But I think ever since I can remember, I so did not want to be dependent. And the first and foremost thing that came to me, I always say, like jokingly, that I was a feminist before I knew the word feminist.
Okay.
And I think it is wrong in the sense that I did not want to be financially independent as a woman. I really wanted to be independent as a child. Like
Wow.
I did not like to depend on people emotionally, financially, any other way. So this was really, like I grew up as far as I can remember, I had this determination that I want to depend on anyone. So I have to be financially independent. And so I think that is what drove me into the being the overachiever.
Okay.
Right. So
yeah.
I wanted to do it.
That's pretty deep because most people that are overachievers don't really get there. So congratulations. Good for you. And that, I've heard this before, this sort of like this little piece that you just said, that you didn't know why you overachieved, but you just knew you had to.
I had to.
It was imperative.
Right.
I think there's something
the
about that.
Overachieving part. Like I wanted to be financially independent. That was my thing, that. And like I said, like I've always thought of myself as an adult. As a 12-year-old, that's all I remember being obsessed about. That, I can go on to not like constantly be depending on this or that person for any of my needs.
Right.
And so here's where there's irony. Then you start becoming an achiever and you start getting recognition, Now people are proud of you and they start to see you, right?
Yeah.
And you become so much dependent, like anything going to its extreme has its opposite seed within it.
Okay.
So then you start becoming dependent on that recognition and affirmation so much that you are now just driven by success. All you want is to be successful.
We might call it addiction,
exactly,
or possession. I don't even know if it's one of the two.
I think I've felt it more as an addiction.
Yeah. Right.
And so at some point, like you are so enjoying being recognized for your success,
right,
that you want to have more of it.
Interesting.
And so, the way it starts is that, like it feels that, I can be financially independent if I can work hard enough, I can study,
Right.
And at some point, what you realize is that now the society or the culture expects part of being successful is also being married. So now, the culture that I grew up in has that,
right.
Like I'm saying all that as if like I knew what was happening back then. I absolutely had zero idea.
Had no idea, right?
But at some point, it became important to be married for that very reason.
Okay.
That like it's part of being successful, being seen as successful.
Sure.
Right?
So this marriage isn't necessarily something you want; it's just something you need to put on, right? To go with the outfit,
right?
Right.
And throughout all this process, you are absolutely losing touch with yourself. Like you don't even know who you are anymore. You are just driven by this one thing.
Yeah.
That you want to be seen as successful. And that starts weighing on you. What Jungians call the second half of life is when all that you have accumulated or you've went after in like the first half of life,
right,
suddenly does not make any sense. And you start questioning that, why did I even do this?
Right.
So, like when I was in the med school and then I was doing residency, I did not just do residency. I was also taking exams for the UK medical systems, which is called MRCP 1 and 2. And I did that really fast and really early. I always tell my residents and students that, having an exam and preparing for it was my idea of having fun. That's all the fun that I had growing up.
You were really good at it. Yeah. Other people stressed about it, and you were just like, I'm going to go kill it. Yeah. You just knew you could kill that shit. Yes.
It was like you see the progress, like step by step. It was such a fun thing for me to do.
I get it. That's good. I'm glad you say this because when I think about like overachievers and doctors and highly competitive fields, it just makes me cringe and run the other way. Like every time I hear, oh, well, you could go do that, but it's highly competitive. I'm out. I've never had a competitive bone in my body. But now that I hear you say that, it makes more sense to me, right?
Yeah.
For you and your internal makeup, that was fun.
That was fun.
I can't imagine that.
Right?
So good for
Right.
you. I mean, I get it. It worked out one way or the other, but thanks for explaining that, because I could never in a million years ever think that would be fun. But okay, now I get it. So thanks.
So it was fun. And so, at some point I got married, and then my husband was planning to come to US. So we became to US, and now I had to do the USMLEs, which is, the US system of getting a degree equivalent to an MBBS and get into a residency. So I did those exams, 3 of which were while I was pregnant. So, that's the determination level that I had, that,
Wow.
no matter what,
Right.
I'm doing this.
Right. Wow.
And I did that, and I did my residency here. So it was really after the residency that I started being in my regular job, where I don't have to take any exams anymore, and I don't have anything to chase.
Right.
That, like 2 years in, when, we were settled and all that, when I would say that depression, but, something really started to hit that. It really is like, it can be subtle and it can be really, really violent, but that's how it generally tends to hit around that time period for most people who are lucky enough to actually get into that phase of second half of life.
Right.
Where it starts to, you start questioning that,
what the hell am I doing?
but right. And why am I doing it?
Right.
Why am I doing it? Like,
Right.
there were other things too, but I knew that I was not happy, and I didn't know why. And so, like all that I explained, I know now. I didn't know back then that why was I doing all of that, right?
right.
That
insight came much later.
Then it was like, okay, this is time to do this. Let's do this now, and all of that. So so at that point, I was obsessed with, I have to find my life purpose. So I became physician, because that was the only thing that women can do back in Pakistan, where you can someday become financially independent. So that's the profession that I chose that way.
Right.
But what was my real gift, and what was my real purpose in life? So I really, got obsessed with that. And that's the time when I realized that, I've always been good at creating deep, meaningful conversations. And people are attracted to me to have those conversations, and they always walk away with insights.
Right.
And they love having that, so they keep coming back for more.
Okay.
This was my side gig when I was doing residency, like after seeing patients, we'll just sit and chat. That's my favorite, pastime.
Right.
And
like
that's
me in bars
when the idea came to me that at some point I didn't even know what coaching was. Okay. And so when I was exploring different things, the first year I went crazy, and the overachiever that I was, I think I read about 70 books in 1 year alone in 2019.
Wow, only 70. Okay, so that was a light year.
I did. Yeah, it was like such a thirst that I want to know more. Like, what's really going on?
So, give me some examples of some of the books that you read during this time. Like
it was mostly pop psychology, and I got into depth psychology a little bit later. Okay, but these were relatively easier books to read. Like, if I look at my past 6 months, I may not have read 6 books, because each book takes so much longer. Right, and I'm not reading like crazy like I was back then.
Right. No, I the only reason I bring it up is because I went through a book period too. And it was like guys like Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, A Course in Miracles, right? Yeah. So these were all just like, they're not real deep. I did
Marianne Williamson. I did Brene Brown. I did
she's great.
Simon Sinek. I did Marianne Williamson. Yep. I already said. Right. Then Eckhart Tolle was another one that I read. Harriet Lerner. Okay. Was one of the other ones. Then John Bradshaw is
I've heard
a lot about inner child healing, and I went through a period when I read all of his books. Wow. It was really 2 years into that period that I got in touch with depth psychology. Like all of these books would mention sometimes Jung and Jungian thought, and
that's usually how it works.
It was not until it was time for me, I guess, spiritually, to actually get into that. And then I got so interested into that I ended up doing a Jungian coaching certification.
Wow. Okay, so I should stop talking about Jung or Young, whatever you want to say. So you know a little bit about it. Yeah.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
So where did it go from there? So then, like it came to me that, okay, like really my purpose was to be a coach. Like how silly, like, even like 2 years back when you look at things and you feel like that, how single-minded you can be in the pursuit of things, how you
Sure.
think that you are changing. Like, it's such a joke that I'm trying to embody more of feminine energy, and I'm trying to do that in such a masculine way.
But now that's everybody. So
Right.
that's the world, you could say that, right? It's true.
So
Right.
at some point I was so much into, like, okay, let's do it. And then I caught myself that what am I doing? Like I'm doing the same thing now, not with the medical profession, but with coaching.
Yes.
Right. So
Right.
it's still that high achiever in me
Yep.
that wants to now achieve highly in coaching other
Right.
than medicine.
I gotta go kill this. I gotta be the best coach ever. Yeah.
And then a period hit me where, like how when you are a coach and you put that out on your social media and all that, and people just all these business coaches start getting to you that, you're wasting your potential and you're ready, more than ready than you think you are. And you should start.
You got to 10x everything. Yeah.
Right. You got to 10x. Exactly. You should just start and you just think you're not ready.
Right.
And I'm like, like I'm not that regular case of like feeling self-doubt. And it's not that
You're like the opposite
I think I'm
of
not
that.
ready. I just want to slow down. Like
Yeah.
I know that.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I have a profession already. Like I have a career already. It's not like I don't have a career.
Right.
So
Yeah. So you're still practicing as a doctor.
To get into this business getting started. I was about to take a workshop, if you will, like, like to kickstart the business part of it. And then something in me just withdrew, like it felt like that something just rebelled, like, like I am not cooperating with you with this anymore. Like, I am so done with you. Like it felt to me like later on when I did engage with it, it felt like, the wild woman who is in touch with her instinctual energy. And she just said, like, this is it. I'm not doing it anymore. You can do it if you can do it without my cooperation. And in all that time, I remember that what we call like the psychic libido was all time low. Like I had such low energy, not just for the business part of it, but I lost total interest in reading.
All the curiosity was gone.
I had no energy to do the household chores.
Ooh.
And my knee pain just got worse. And for the first time, instead of like hushing it away that, okay, it's nothing, it would get better, I actually started to feel it for the first time that, I am a mortal, I'm a human being. This is part of my vulnerability. This may get worse.
Right.
And I may end up or, like may need and depend on people for small and big things.
Uh-oh.
Right.
Uh-oh.
And this may get worse. And this may be a sign, and it is a sign of aging, and I am aging,
Right.
like
Yep.
all those things, like I think hit me, and it really helped me slow down.
Good for you.
That
yeah.
I am, that I, like I'm not invincible. It's not like nothing affects me, and it's not like I won't need anyone. Like, it has been a hard thing. And I think that's also the first time that after struggling with it throughout the time when I did my coaching certification, that I just could not see the value of, no, but why do you need to be sad? Why do you need to be sad? And eventually, I think this was the time that I was sad and I allowed myself to be sad, and I was okay with it. And that is really what helped me slow down. That, like, and I think since then, after that, I've not been rushing to anything.
Good.
Like even recently, like things have been going on in my life that are rather dark and difficult. And I just feel that even though on surface it may seem like that nothing is happening, but I always have to remind myself of the image of winter trees where it seems like nothing is happening, but things are happening in the depths.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
And come spring and we always see new growth. So and something new emerges. And what's the timeline going to be? We don't know that, but something will emerge.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of stay with that and then follow little cues like within your body, within.
Totally. Yeah.
I really go with, the fantasy and imagination, like what images are coming to you spontaneously? What are you seeing these days? Like people say that they are not visual people, but we always are. And we are always
Right.
envisioning new life and new things. And what is it really that you want? And that's how I said that, the image that comes to me is that of a desert with the fire and people around it.
Okay.
And
love it.
It's a community, and that's what calls me. How is it going to come to be? I don't know that yet, but it will.
That's a good
faith.
Image. It's like Burning Man. It just happened. It got really wet.
Yeah.
So I have questions about like when you didn't want to feel sad and your knee hurt and you wanted to slow down.
Yeah.
Was there any more lessons out of that? Like deeper lessons? Like, did you?
There were many.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
Yeah. There were many. So
Right,
I think
okay.
it's the first time that I really accepted my own vulnerability as a human being,
Yes.
as being a human body.
Right.
In terms of that, no, you cannot think happy thoughts and exercise every day and eat well and just stay young for the rest of your life.
No, turns out we're not robots.
Right.
Right.
This is going to happen. And,
Right.
like, just like I gave you the example of trying to be more feminine with the masculine ways, it's exactly like, so at that time I was like, you know what, like, it's not something that Western medicine can treat. It's about energy healing,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. So it sounds weird.
I have
but yeah.
to get into what emotional baggage am I carrying? And if I can fix that, then I can fix this knee pain and it will go away. Like somehow, one way or the other, it will go away.
Right.
For the first time, it really dawned on me that it may not go away. And it may end up me requiring or needing to depend on people in not necessarily like in the horrible kind of ways that I'm bedbound or whatnot, but you need help for things.
Yeah. I think what that makes me think of is I can't remember the moment, but during all of those books that I read, somebody somewhere said that I'm 100% responsible for my earthly experience, as they say, right? And I was like, okay, but I'm not a doctor and I don't know how to sew an arm back on. And they were like, no. Look, you're going to need help, right? But whatever happens, it's on you, right? So you got to go out and make it all happen, but you're not going to do it alone, right?
Right.
And you can't do it alone. I think the military is really good at that, right? Like I took it for granted, just like you, right? When you were in your overachieving person, right? Yeah. I just like, I'm like, oh, leadership training, whatever. It's so stupid, right? And then 20 years later, I get out and I realize like most people in the military, don't know that they're being trained by the world-class leadership training that is the United States Air Force. But leadership training is a real thing, Right. And it's not even like all that complicated or difficult. It's more about understanding it's a role and then taking it seriously, right? I think that not a lot of people outside of the military do that. And I was doing it like because, they say you have to, right?
Right.
Okay, my turn now. All right. All right, I'll go do it. And to be honest with you, the first couple times I did it, it sucked, right?
Like anything else.
People look at you and they're going, you're calling yourself a leader? I'm like, hey, I'm new. We're all just doing our best, right? It's not like you're going to kill it every time,
Yeah.
But when I realized that, I started thinking differently about my past and my future, that somehow, some way I'm responsible and you can't, and at the same time, you're not going to get everything done that needs doing by yourself. That was the military did a really good job of teaching me that. So I got lucky.
Yeah.
The other comment that I had was medical community, not great at self-care.
Not at all. Yeah. Yeah.
Not at all. Because they all just have to just, buck up, It's like, you don't have time to bleed, right?
Yeah.
As it turns out, no, you are human. So that's great. So, okay. We've been going a while and this has been fun. So we're right at an hour. So if you need to quit, just let me know.
Okay.
But let's start wrapping up. Because this has been a blast and it went way too fast.
It did actually.
So you are ambertariq.com and you're starting your depth coach training class, coaches program. So talk a little bit about how people can best get in touch with Amber.
They can get in touch with me. They can send me a message at my website.
Great.
At support@ambertariq.com.
Yep.
It's also being revamped, my website, so you'll see a new design coming up in next couple of months.
Okay.
So, as long as you get to my website, there will be ways to get in touch with me. You can also get in touch with me at my Instagram.
Okay.
That I can share my links with.
Sure.
And also at Facebook.
Okay. I can put links to.
You can get in touch with me.
I can put links to those in the show notes.
I'll really be enthusiastic about is really not taking on, like, at least for now, the thing that I'm most excited about would be to start a blog and build a community around it.
Oh, that's a great idea.
People who are really want to comment on it, want to become a part of conversation.
Somebody interested.
Somebody genuinely interested. Exactly.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah. That's the village that you want to find.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I found that guy, the first thing I wanted to do, the sit with it guy, was I wanted to call him up and say, "Where do you live? I'm coming over. We're going to go out and have beer." When you find somebody that you think for sure they're going to be, the president of your village or something. I get it. So you want to connect with people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Me too. Right. So I just recently in April quit my job.
Okay.
And, all of Western society's social relationships come from jobs. And so now my wife still has a job and I'm sitting home all alone all day. The only people I talk to are my podcast guests.
Yeah.
It's a little sad and lonely, but I'll get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The work is like a whole world, I think the most hours that we spend our waking hours is at work. And I think it has to be meaningful enough for us that it brings something of value other than the paycheck for us to be truly
for sure.
engaged with it.
Yeah. I am blessed to say that I no longer need money. Now I might make some anyway.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's a
good spot to be. Yeah. So I did this. I think like all of my soul searching really was just trying to figure out how I could do whatever the hell I wanted without having to worry about money. So it just so happens that I found a lot of really good spiritual stuff too. But when I found that it's a movement called financial independence, and then in parentheses, retire early. I'm not a fan of retirement.
Oh, no.
Right. Just sounds boring, like you're playing shuffleboard in Florida. I don't want to do that. And I don't want to get a really big house and, pay way too much for golf. But I don't necessarily want to have a dumb job I don't like anymore either. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at. I think we're in a similar life situation. Like
I still have a job, by the way, I still am a physician. And what it did for me, like all of my soul searching, what it did for me was that it brought aspects of my own personality to my current job, where I realized that not only is, at some point I felt that this is not truly my calling and, I just got into it for this reason or that reason.
Right.
that I can really make it mine. And
You
if I
totally
really
can.
bring my whole self to my job, not
Yes.
only I'm more fun to be around, I'm actually I
You're a
can
better
bring
doctor.
more value
You're a way better doctor.
to the residents, to the students, to
Yeah,
my
for
colleagues,
patients.
to the patients,
Yeah.
and they all love it when I can bring my whole self, and I
Yeah.
enjoy it way more than. And again, the self-care thing that you said about the medical profession.
It's true. It's pretty horrible. that self-care.
I know now, like my whole, like how I talk to patients, how I treat my work, how I want to be efficient or not efficient, and all that has changed so much dramatically.
Yeah.
That I do know, like I do know that my patients appreciate when I can spend time with them, and I'm not in a rush, and I'm okay to talk about other things other than but when I am on a teaching service, I let my residents do it. And I'm so surprised when at the end of the rotation, they would tell me that how they liked how I interacted with patients. And I'm like, I hardly interact with patients. How do you know that?
Right.
How do I interact with patients? But even that little, your presence or not rushing through the things is noticed by others. And it really feels so good to be in a profession that is notorious for really make it all mechanical and
Right.
try
That
to make it more
professional
human. And
detachment.
it
kind of
has
thing.
brought so much more meaning to the job for me.
Yeah, my last job, I was a help desk technician.
Okay.
Right. So I answer the phone. Hi, help desk. This is Jeff. Right.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, if you just take a little bit of time and just say like, don't worry, we got this. I got you. Everything's too damn much. Let's just fix this and get on with your life. And, I had like people crying on the phone on a help desk call just because I was the first person to just take time and see them as a person that just needs help, and that's all they want. They don't need another link with a bunch of instructions they don't understand. They need help.
And, the most important epiphany for me in all of this is that how we think that we're really doing a service to the others, by being more human. And it really is a bigger service to ourselves.
True.
It makes our own lives so much more meaningful because we took the time to do that. It comes later that what it did for the other person, but what it really does. And I think that's where all motivation comes from. Because, we can show you all the scores that have gotten better in terms of patient satisfaction and whatnot. If it does not add something to your life, you would not continue to do it. And so what it truly does is that it adds value first and foremost to your own life.
Yeah, for sure.
You think that, being a better human or spending more time or chatting with the patient more or seeing them as a person is an effort on your part, and you have to go an extra mile and like it first and foremost brings joy to your life.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Yeah. You can only give to others what you have. You can't.
Totally.
You can give joy to others when you don't have it yourself.
That's right. Yeah. This has been okay. So let's really wrap up now. Because I could talk forever, but the show's only an hour. But please come back. And please come be the doctor in my village. It'll be in the desert. I'm in Vegas. We'll have a fire. We could have that dream tomorrow. If you came to my house, I've got a fireplace. It's in the backyard. It'd be just you and me. Bring your husband and your kids, and I'll have my wife there. There you go. It's a village.
Absolutely.
This has been a blast. Thank you so much for being you and sharing your joy and your grief. And I agree with everything you said. So let's be friends.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
It has been fun.
All right.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.